We continue now with our special coverage of the blockbuster Durham Report on the use of the FBI as a political weapon against the Trump campaign and then the Trump presidency. Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Joe diGenova, who was one of those clarion voices in the wilderness, Joe. You have every right to give a victory lap here if you'd like, as you were calling this out from day one. Thank you for joining us.
You bet. Delighted to be here, Larry. It's a very important moment, obviously. I'm extremely disappointed at the timing. It's about 3 years too late. It should have been published before the 2020 election so that American voters could have been informed. And I think without knowing that there weren't going to be further indictments, the fact that it took this long to publish is inexcusable. I give John Durham an F for timing.
The New York Times and MSNBC and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok, they say this is a nothing burger. There's no real news here, Joe. We already knew all of these things. If the New York Times is saying that, I know it's wrong, but what did you take from this report, despite the problem with the timing?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that it now serves as the official public record for a series of crimes that were committed by high-level FBI officials and others against a candidate for president, a interregnum president, a sitting president, and a post-president. It is very obvious that what John Durham has outlined is going to be the factual historical record to show that James Comey and all of his cohorts on the 7th floor, John Brennan, James Clapper, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, who were warned that Hillary Clinton was cooking up this entire hoax and did nothing about it. In fact, they encouraged it and allowed it to go further. So I think the historical record is established now. I don't care, but believe me, what McCabe and Strzok say, those people are fools appearing on foolish networks. But the bottom line is this: the historical record is now set. There were crimes committed in the name of the United States to stop a candidate for president by the FBI, the Department of Justice, the CIA, and perhaps others. But yeah. I'm pleased with the content.
I want to get back to Barack Obama in just a moment, if I could, Joe. You keep saying that there were crimes committed here by higher-ups at the FBI. Of course, Mr. Durham's report doesn't have any recommendations for criminal prosecutions. Right. Why is it? Is it because there's not enough evidence to convict those criminals, or is it because in D.C. you can't get a jury to convict those criminals?
I think the latter, that you're facing D.C. juries who have acquitted one person in one case, Sussman.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear that he was facing a daunting task in front of those pettit juries in the District of Columbia, especially when the federal bench has been extremely unfriendly toward his cases. I think there was evidence that could be used. I think there were cases to be made. I think also, though, one of the most important factors is that John Durham is an institutionalist. He was assigned, as you know, to go over the torture interrogations that were done by the CIA out of Iraq and elsewhere, and he refused to bring charges. By the way, a decision with which I agreed. But one of the reasons he did that was because he believes in protecting institutions like the agency. Yeah. He also believes in protecting the FBI and the Department of Justice. So I think those were major reasons.
This doesn't seem to be an institution that deserves protection, though, Joe diGenova, this being the FBI and maybe even the Justice Department writ large. He sort of said that in the summary statement where he basically said new rules and new training isn't going to make a difference here. We need to get back to the basics, the old rules of the FBI, and protect the Constitution, not the institution. So how do we do that, Joe diGenova? Some people are saying we got to dismantle the whole thing and start from scratch again.
Well, you can't do that because that's impossible in the modern world, but you can get rid of all the upper echelon of the FBI, and you can't get rid of the upper echelon of the Department of Justice right now because it's being run by the thug in the White House who controls Merrick Garland and all the people in the upper echelon of the Justice Department. But the FBI, you have to get rid of Chris Wray. He has been a horrible steward in the post-Comey era. He's done nothing but make things worse. So I think you just have to clean house. You can't rebuild the FBI. One of the things I would have done is not given them the money for their new headquarters, $87 billion to build a new headquarters. Can you imagine with this bunch in charge, with a tract of land that big, whether it's in Maryland, Virginia, or the district, how horrible the power they're going to have?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's something well, We've heard House Republicans say that they wanted to re-examine that, and that would be a very good time to halt that funding. Joe, when the American people look at this, when they read the Durham Report and they recognize that Barack Obama, President of the United States, was briefed by CIA Director John Brennan about this scheme of the Clinton campaign, knowing that it was false from day one, as this Crossfire Hurricane investigation in the Counterintelligence Division of the FBI was being hatched. When they see that, and then they see it continued after the election, they recognize that you have a president of the United States and the apparatus of the federal government and the intelligence community undermining the will of the American people. That gets lost in this mix, Joe. But the American people elected Donald Trump as president of the United States. And I've heard a lot since January 6th about getting in the way of our democracy and the peaceful transfer of power. How was this not seditious conspiracy? By the way, a conspiracy that included then Vice President, now President Joe Biden.
It was seditious conspiracy. In fact, that's one of the things that I regret deeply about Durham's report, that he didn't say that he didn't make clear that there were crimes committed and they involved at least the knowing assistance of the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, the then Vice President Joe Biden, and the current President Joe Biden. This is a very disappointing aspect of this, because if people are saying, well, how do we hold these people accountable? Well, other than by ritualistic resolutions of censure in the House of Representatives and naming all the 51 signatories of that horrible intelligence letter, and saying that these people should have their security clearances all revoked. Anybody who's mentioned in the report should never have a security clearance again, and also that they should never be allowed to partake of federal government contracts. But then there's civil suits. But we're missing the big gun, which is the criminal case, and that is extremely disappointing that James Comey and others are not in the dock.
One other thing, Joe, and this is why I love talking to you about this, because you're very frank, but you're also, you love the law, you love the Justice Department, you were a critical member of the Justice Department for years, and so I know it's not easy for you to criticize them when you see this stuff, but it's out of that love that they deserve that criticism from you. So let's talk about the FISA court. Let's talk about the laws that were put in place after September 11th. Many of us, I included, thought that those laws were necessary to keep us safe. There were a few voices there at the time that said, hold on, you're giving way too much power, too much investigative power with criminal law attached to that investigative power to the federal government. It could be used against the American people or against political enemies of the state. And we laughed at them. And now we see, is that not exactly what happened here?
Absolutely. And what happened was the institutions that were supposed to protect us ended up harming us. And that is because you get down to the fundamental issue, which is, who are the people in charge? What is their character? What is their honor? What is their integrity? Are they honest people? We had a period of time where we had dishonest people and dishonorable people running some of the most powerful agencies in the world, who were motivated by politics, ideology, and just evilly motivated people. That no matter what law you write, you can't have a good institution if the people who are running it are corrupt. Look at Mayorkas right now.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter to him what the laws were. He would lie about what he was doing, and he would do what he wants to do, and he would twist the law to do the wrong things. That's exactly what happened at the FBI and DOJ. The power was in the hands of people who should never have had it. All those FBI agents who knowingly got false FISA applications filed, all of them should have been charged with crimes, every single one of them.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but we're told Mr. Durham is being asked to appear next week before the Weaponization of Federal Government Committee, the subcommittee headed by Jim Jordan. What would you like them to do? What do you think they should be asking Mr. Durham? And what are the next steps for Congress?
Well, I think they need to ask him why he didn't bring charges. I think they should get into that in a big way. Mm-hmm. And they should ask the questions that you did at the beginning of the show. Was there not enough evidence? Was he fearful of the jury? Did he not believe it was his job? Did he want to protect the institutions? And they should get about the business of passing resolutions of censure. They need to name everybody in that report in what I call ritualistic censures on the floor of the House. Those people need to be publicly shamed.
Yeah.
They need to be named. Now, even if they're not going to be embarrassed about it, and they say that they wear it as a badge of honor, they need to be named.
Meanwhile, Adam Schiff is running for Senate in California, Joe. Thanks for joining us. He was right. and he deserves a victory lap. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.